Okay. Hello, my name is Austin Oberzan, and I will be presenting the extinction of North American megafaunas and megafaunas in general. This presentation, I will be going over what megafaunas are and give you a couple examples on them and go into detail about a couple of those animals that I give examples of, just to kind of give you content to realize how big they used to be. And then also, I'll be going over a couple hypotheses of what actually made them or caused them to be extinct. So first off, I'm gonna go into and talk about what they are. So a megafaunas are animals that are particularly a large in large size. So these animals are such as like bears, bisons, and mammoths. So a couple example of megafaunas would have been the Florida cave bear, the ancient bison, and I might be saying a couple of these wrong, so don't get on me too much. Chasporites, Airmetherisms, saber-toothed cats, the woolly mammoth, teratonas, direwolves, camelops, glyptons, and North American horses. And I'm sure you've heard a couple of these that I just listed off. I'm going to go into detail on a couple of those just to give you, just kind of give you picture so you can picture how big they actually were compared to our animals nowadays. So the Florida cave bear was present in North America about 11,000 years ago. It ranged from Florida to California. It weighed about 650 pounds, which would be the average size of a brown bear. And its closest living relative would be bears of the Indies. And then also the ancient bison, which was huge. If you think about the modern bisons were big, these were even bigger. The ancient bison weighed about up to 3,500 pounds and was abundant up until about 10,000 years ago, and they crossed, and which was across North America, which the modern bison being the direct relative. Another one would be the Earmetherisms, which is a group of giant ground sloths, and they were huge. They're similar to the modern sloths of South America, but these would grow up to 6 meters tall and weighed more than 3 tons. And there were several species in that group, and those were extinct about 11,000 years ago. Next would be the saber-toothed cat, and their legend, which was several species and are known for their canines, which they grew up to 11 inches long. These cats were larger than any living species. Scientists believe it was the reason for their extinctions was because the humans were hunting out their prey, and they were day hunters as well, so that's the reason why they potentially got extinct. Another one would be the Teratonans, which was a huge American bird, which crossed over California, Nevada, Arizona, and these birds had a wingspan up to 12 feet, and it would have been larger than your modern condors. And they would and they were scavengers of large mammals. And this is probably another reason why they went extinct, because the herbivores were being hunted by humans. Another example would be the dire wolf, which was common in North and South America. These species were even larger and more fearsome than the modern gray wolf, which is particularly because of their size, which was their downfall. They were slower, which they couldn't keep up with the smaller prey as larger mammals died out. And that kind of gives you an example of a couple of the huge animals and how big they were compared to our animals nowadays. So onto that, I'm going to go into the first hypothesis of why uh, megafaunas were extinct in North America and in general. So the first hypothesis was humans overkilling them, and this theory was first proposed in 1966 by Paul Martin, and it was called the overkilled hypothesis. And that stated that the arrival of modern humans and each new part of the world brought with the extinction of those large animals, because they were hunted and they were outcompeting them in general. The hypothesis kind of paints humans as the potential force of the destruction and the highly controversial. And it was highly controversial when Martin first proposed it, but over time it gained traction in the around the world as a reason why. And it generally accepted that overhunting was the main cause of the extinctions in North America, Australia, and New Zealand. The climate in that region at that time was roughly the same as it is now, and the species living at that time were rat adapted. Um, Evidence shows that humans migrated into the areas, they hunted the native megafaunas with ease. The animals never seen humans before, and the native to human and were not native to human hunting tactics. Um, the environment was also very combustible, and there were and with the humans having impressive fire starting skills, the humans in the region could burn vast areas of habitats, contributing to the decline of the native species. Which kind of leads with the environment. That's kind of a second hypothesis of the extinction of North American megafaunas and megafaunas in general. And this, until about 11,000 years ago, mammoths, giant beavers, and other massive mammals roamed North America and around the world. Many of researchers have blamed their demise on incoming Paladinians, which was the first Americans who hunted them into extinction. But the new studies figures that climates and the environmental changes was a reason instead. These findings could have implicated the conservation strategies, including controllism proposing for rewilding lions and elephants into North America. The research gives a final example of 57 megafaunas dates from 47 different sites and 25 Paladinian dates from 22 sites. With the two databases that were compared, it became clear that most of the megafaunas had already disappeared before the humans came to the scene, suggesting that humans had little to do with their extinction, but had some reason, and was reason why they got extinct too. Um, so, and the radiocarbon dates also suggested that eastern megafaunas underwent two major declines before finally going extinct. The first was 14,100 years ago, before any humans were on the planet. But the numbers of animals then recovered after the 500 years. The final population crashed between 12,700 years ago when they arrived in the region. Between 75 and 90% of the northeastern megafaunas were gone before humans even came on the scene. Yet, even though humans and animal overlaps, they argued that there is no evidence of the hunting. So, So they stress the results that can directly apply only to northeastern and um, North American areas, and that was over the climate change. Um, so, nevertheless, given the large amount of megafaunas in the northeastern and the lack of evidence of the human involvement, they argue that the overkilling cannot have the only or even play a key role. Um, and lastly, um, the last hypothesis would have been disease, with the new with humans coming in, they're bringing new diseases, and this is diseases in general that were there before the humans were there. The disease theory was proposed by Ross Mackey and Preston Marks. They suggested that the hybrid disease was introduced to the native mammals by the migrating humans, or possibly their dogs or their animals. It particularly affected the large mammals because the smaller bodied species are more resistant as a result of the larger population size and the shorter uh, gestation times for the diseases. For the disease to have wiped out the species, it would have been able to exit outside the host. It was highly contagious, able to infect many species, and killed at least 50% of the infected. However, this idea was not appeared to have much evidence to support it, so it's been regarded by many as being an unlikely main cause of the Ice Age extinctions. So all three hypotheses have their pros and cons of why of why one wasn't the complete reason for the extinction. But the extinction of megafaunas around the world was probably due because of all three: the diseases, environmental, and climate changes, and the getting hunted. Um, and that is the end of my presentation. I went over what megafaunas are and a couple reasons why they got extinct. Thank you.